All right, recording has started.
So the first thing on the agenda is to review and approve the minutes from the meeting on November the 14th. And it basically is pretty bare bones, but, and I remember this, Karen did make a presentation that was really interesting. And really, I mean, I don't know what there could be to argue with the accuracy of the minutes, right? So does anybody want to glance at them or make a move to approve them? Body language tells me people are reading them.
I didn't attend the meeting, but yeah, I think it seems, is that okay if I can still make a motion?
I asked you first. I don't know. What the hell? Go for it.
I mean, as far as everything I'm reading on here, it's good, but
Yeah. Or maybe technically somebody who was here, just in case it's a
I'll make the motion to approve.
great
Greg.
second.
A second.
Marie, good. Okay, everybody in favor of approving the minutes, raise your hand visibly. Cool. Okay. All right. What's next? Next is old business, an update on consistent messaging among haulers and inconsistencies amongst MRFs, a topic about which I was asked only a couple weeks ago. Who's actually leading that discussion or reporting?
Well, I will say that I meant to, ahead of this meeting, try to connect with Hillary for an update, and I failed to actually start that email or call. So I think I saw Hillary
Looks like she's here.
join in. So yeah, if you have anything to share, I felt like we have been very close on the idea. I think we're understanding that the haulers can easily have consistent messaging if we have MRFs with, you know, consistent enough accepted items. So if Hillary, do you have any updates on that?
Hi, everybody. I do not have a specific update on that, Karen. I'd like to circle back with you outside of this meeting so that we can both take a look at the comparison list that you sent over. And I want to make sure I'm clear with our director of recycling on a couple of items. So if it's okay with you, I'd love to circle back.
That's fine.
Maybe later this week.
And we had, in previous meetings, we had kind of shared the side-by-side look at the MRF survey. So you could see the details that where there's any differences. And I actually send that every year in January, right at the beginning of the year, to the MRFs. That way, if there's any updates, we know that it's been looked at once per year. And of course, if any major changes happen in the middle of the year, we could just update it then. But I always think it's good to just have fresh eyes and make sure it looks good for you know, for that time in January. So I had already last week, I guess, sent that on to Laura and Hillary to look at. No big deal on
It's
no
been
big deal on
received,
how
but
a
not
lot of
completed.
things. Yeah, that's okay. Typically there's not too much change, but again, I think it's good to take a look at it and make sure. And there's some good questions toward the end, even about, you know, your worst, like top prohibited items and things like that, that really help with education too. So, so that's okay if we don't really have a full update, but just to clarify, I guess, that's really, if we move forward with anything from the district that includes any new materials, then we just want to make sure that we're following any of the discussion we've already had about consistency among the MRFs. I can kind of guess on a lot of things, and for the most part, I think we're good, but But we just want to make sure we're going, doing our due diligence on that as we move forward with these programs that are more specific to the plan. So any other?
Could I add something in there, Karen? I know I've said this before and still want to continue highlighting because it's a problem for waste as well as recycling. And I think we have to really work on the education and its batteries. It's a problem, and it's a growing problem for MRFs nationwide, not just West Rock, as well as, you know, transfer stations, and really pushing that education on batteries and that they cannot go in there.
That's good. And I think we did determine that we're already consistent on some of the no-nos for recycling. So even if any of our big education pushes start with something like that, like a targeted, like, don't put this in your cart kind of thing, then I think we could easily agree on something like that.
I agree.
As well as your waste. I'm floored at the number of people that will talk to me once they've heard about a fire at one of our facilities. And it might not be a total destruction fire, I'm not saying that, but that still don't know that you shouldn't even put them in your trash. So, and I'm shocked by where I would have expected the people to know, people have not known. So it's not getting out enough to the general public, I think.
I believe it's a very much an wide issue, and agree. Garbage trucks catch fire, sometimes lithium batteries.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
This is
they're
lithium ion batteries?
yeah, they tend to, when you move them around, they get damaged, they will spark and start fires.
Yeah.
I know West Rock has had some issues with that. Some trucks have had issues with that. So it's growing and it's a problem across the whole country.
If I could make a comment, even among this educated group, we're just using the term batteries. And I have to keep thinking, are we talking alkaline batteries? Are we talking any
Great
recyclable?
point.
Are we talking just lithium ion? So I just want to circle back around and say, I don't think anybody educated should use the term batteries, because aren't I supposed to
Yeah,
throw
you're right.
just regular alkaline type batteries in the trash, correct?
There is
Yeah.
there is some discussion as to whether or not that we should use the term batteries or specific batteries. There's so many different kinds of batteries.
Right, right.
And
Yeah.
if you start to point them out, it becomes more confusion instead of just saying that all batteries should be recycled. And all batteries should not go out. That's a much simpler message than the nickel hydrides, the lithium ions, and it gets very confusing. So I'm not so sure that saying specific batteries is the issue. The people that are very interested in it are going to know the difference and what they can do. But for the general message, I'm not so sure that not using the term batteries.
Well, maybe if you want to say don't throw any batteries in recycling bin, but what about, like I say, alkaline batteries? If you tell people to save their batteries, a lot of people aren't going to do that. You know that they're going to put them somewhere. There's people with kids that throw out, 20, 30 batteries a week or a month. So I think we should be clear. I disagree. I think we should be clear and say you can throw, whatever you want to call them, disposable batteries, non-recyclable batteries, whatever. I think we should tell the public what to do. Otherwise, let's keep talking about this a year from now and 2 years from now. So, okay. Go
I
ahead.
think to Kim's point, the big problem, well, it can be the fire hazard, and that goes for trash or recycling, and that's true.
So I understand that. So
when-
just say any recycling battery. You don't have to say lithium ion versus NiCad or something like that. Say just don't put rechargeable batteries in. See, I said it wrong. You don't put rechargeable batteries in the recycling stream, and you don't have to clarify which types. That's okay.
Right. I think people get confused because, and this goes for plastic shopping bags too. Like you should recycle them.
Yeah.
But they don't always hear that it's a drop off. It's not
Right.
like just in
Right.
your regular bin. So,
Right.
I
But we're
will
trying.
say
we're trying with that. I think we do pretty good now with that.
So I do have a page on our website. I'm realizing as I went to it that it was a little buried, like harder to get to. So I'm sure it wouldn't hurt to, make it a little more prominent, but I'm going to put it in the chat in case you want to look. But it's just a page on our Louisville Metro's website about disposing of batteries, and it's step one, step two, step three kind of thing, and pretty much understanding that it's important to know what type of battery you have. So anyway, just FYI, and usually if I do any kind of social posts about batteries, I share that link. And I do get specific in any of my trivia and no waste kinds of things. I get specific and say household, alkaline, or rechargeable or whatever. So although I know it's a lot sometimes for some people to hear and understand, but you're right, Greg. It's hard to just say batteries and have any idea because people will ask me, well, how do you get rid of batteries? Well, the first question is what kind of battery? So
I mean, I think they're all labeled. Even if it's abbreviated, they're all labeled as to what kind they are, which could be to our advantage. Supposedly, somebody's going to be building a large lithium ion battery recycling facility in southern Kentucky. And so, assuming that's true, and the only reason I think it might not be true is some corporations will announce something like that and that they're going to get all these subsidies just to get a bump in their stock value, and then they never do anything. But assuming that that's not a ruse like that, maybe that would give us a good place to send our lithium ion batteries here
I,
to
I,
get properly recycled.
I think that it may be on hold.
Yeah.
But I also think that its focus is going to be on vehicle batteries.
It is, but and I don't know about other electric cars, but my car is thousands of batteries the size of 9 volts.
Yeah,
And, maybe it is that they're going to be designing a recycling facility for a rectangular cross section and therefore something else won't fly, but we'll see.
it's a very young industry for sure.
I beg your pardon?
It's a very young industry.
Yes.
And I'm
Yes.
sure that they're going to have to, it'll get built out. There's a market for it and people can make a little bit of money.
Hell yeah.
It'll get built out.
It beats the hell out of mining raw ore. Okay, so I guess we're ready to go on, eh? So under new business, it's funny to read at this angle, we need to discuss future education plans, specifically the focus message, the audience, and the methods. Who is leading that discussion?
well, I was hoping Sandra would be here because she has some ideas. But since she's not, that's okay. I guess I will kind of start off with this. The education within our department never stops. So we're always doing something. And I know that this subcommittee is focused on the 5-year plan and all of those education bullet points that are part of it. So we come here and it's great because we have the people on the committee have lots of expertise or maybe connections or part of the hauling industry. So it's very important that we do this, but I also sometimes feel like I don't have a specific direction based on, from the committee, this subcommittee. So I kind of, Sandra had some thoughts. I called her just to check on how maybe she wanted to do this meeting, and she had some ideas, I think, about even having some kind of survey to residents so that we could hear, what's one thing that would help them improve their own recycling behavior. She seemed to feel like one of the top messages is that recycling is real, kind of removing some of the skepticism that goes with it. So, so those are just some things that came out in our conversation, and that's how I managed to create an agenda item that was a little vague, but also just wanted to be able to, as a group, just step back. It is, you know, it's a brand new year. Want to make sure that we're focused right. If we want this, if we want the work that we kind of talk about within this subcommittee to have a certain message, a certain audience, or any certain methods, then I just want to make sure that I am fully aware of the direction from you all as committee members. So I'll stop talking for a minute. Thanks, Sarah Lynn. Yeah.
So the number one question that I get from the public is it for real? And I took the tour, I don't know when, late October, right before surgery. And I had intended to really run with that ball. And of course, life got in its way. But I really think that if we did a fairly organic approach of people like ourselves posting up a video of something that's going on at a MRF and talking about how we toured the MRF and what we learned and have some enthusiasm about it, I think that could be more powerful than anything else, you know?
Yes.
I think and to illustrate the point, there are people who will ask me before they'll ask the city because they think I'll tell the truth whether it's pretty or not, you know? And that you can't take personally. It's our society. But I think that we ought to exploit it a little to our advantage. You know what I mean?
I agree. I definitely think that every time, and I'm sure Hillary would say the same thing, and I know Laura agrees, every time people come and tour, it changes their perspective on how things work because it kind of makes sense and they can see it. Seeing is believing.
I mean,
Did
I've been
anybody
touring
see
these
this?
things now, I'm realizing for 35 years I've been touring MRFs. And I still think it's interesting and I learned something, you know, because the technology's gotten way more sophisticated.
Absolutely. Yep.
Did anybody see the stories on the news this week?
Yesterday.
I did.
See what stories?
See what?
I can send all the links if you
Yeah.
want. I will say it was all a request by WLKY. One of the more, I don't watch the news, but the morning show reporter and his photographer had the idea that they wanted to spend the morning following recycling basically from the curb to the MRF, and my husband does work at WLKY, so they knew that they had a connection and got my phone number. And so with the help of Westrock and Laura being there and her team, as well as our waste collection workers, we were able to use that media outlet and that reporter to show, just highlight our own workers and the trucks and everything that they're doing, plus the unloading at Westrock and showing the sorting process through video. So those are links. They kind of packaged it up into a story for the that got shared through email and on the website and everything. And then they have the morning show clips are all YouTube links because they kept cutting in. We had live shots at the waste collection building and on a route. And then we pretended to be live while we were at Westrock. But anyway, so it turned out really well. And I think that even the reporter had the idea that I was sharing with him. You know, a lot of people are skeptical about this, and being able to see it is amazing. And maybe I can't get everybody on a tour, you know, but they felt good because they were helping to bring that visual, like Sarah Lynn saying, you know, into people's homes. So those are going to be beneficial videos and clips for a long time, I would think, you know. And they were also excited about our Recycle Right program with the OOPS tags that we have going, and they're ready to do another story on that. It was a little much to include it with everything yesterday, but yeah, I can send an email that has all the links and everything, or you can just search on WLKY's website and they're kind of on there. But
Which
Send a link,
reporter?
that'd be great.
it was really fun and it felt really positive because they weren't coming at us questioning recycling in a negative angle that we had to kind of prove differently. They were more coming at it like, hey, this is great. We want to show everybody. So I really liked that kind of positive approach.
Is it Mark Vanderhoff?
No, it was a young guy, Sam Carter.
I don't know him.
He's like the I think he does throughout the morning. He likes to be on he like goes places and they cut in from the show to wherever he is live. So it was fun.
One thing I would like
Yes.
to do is post the schedule for the upcoming tours on social media and then talk about how I thought it was such a cool experience so that people can, you know, it in a way you could argue it's kind of like a challenge. Quit bitching and moaning and go check it out yourself, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm reluctant to share that too wide, but I do
Oh, I thought it was a public thing, no?
well, kind of. I'm not necessarily public as in I'll just post it everywhere, but if I speak, like I'm going on Thursday to the Rubbertown Community Council or something, and I plan to have the QR code ready for them if they're interested in seeing it, they can get the sign up link. So, you know, when I'm talking to people or even some people that communicate with me a lot on social media, I've kind of maybe not gotten to know them in person, but a little bit online. I'll say, you know, you might just want to come. So I do appreciate the West Rock and Laura, you know, being willing to do those tours, and having a standing date really helps because then when we do share it, it's kind of like just sign up for one. It's not a matter of, you know, there's no barrier of trying to match schedules or anything. It's just we have this.
I've
Locked
already
in
got
date.
3
Let's fill it
people
up.
who want to go. They want to know when's the next one so they can go.
Yep.
So I
Well, the
guess,
link is the same if you still have it, but I can send that to you too.
please. Yeah, I don't know where it is.
Please, yeah.
I go back and look at the agenda here.
Well, can I add something to that? I think a lot of young people don't even have to go on the tour. If we just make videos, YouTube videos or whatever videos we have available to it, a lot of people actually now believe it more almost if they see it from some trusted source on social media than they do in person. And they're not going to go over there in person necessarily. They don't physically want to do that kind of stuff. So I think just getting it out, those type of tours that we have videoed already, to keep getting out on social media to all that we can is important. And another thing I just want to add, I've been going a lot to my District 8 meetings. I go District 10. I've started involved. I'm on the Tyler Park Neighborhood Association. I think, like you said, Karen, you're going to some, I forget what city or something like that. Those are very effective, and don't want to make you have to go to all those type of meetings, but sometimes it's just getting the contact. Or like, you know, our district councilman's very active. That's another way. If we can get a district council person to believe it and go, they could promote it and maybe put it on their websites and stuff like that too.
Yes, that reminds me, Andrew Owen, council is
Yeah.
at 9, District
He's
9.
not-
Anyway,
Yeah.
he had reached out right at the end of the year wanting to do a tour of West Rock and then decided, you know what, it's like holiday time, it's going to be hard. But he had him and other colleagues, he was trying to do a tour. So I'm going to,
His daddy
need to-
made videos at this.
I know.
I was going to say, right?
I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's a believer, I'm sure, but he wanted,
yeah.
he had
Oh, yeah.
heard that other people had gone and was like, well, I want to go.
Yeah.
So I'll reach back out to him, and that was going to be maybe a separate date in working with their schedules. But that's
And
true, Greg. We talk a lot in some of our other education planning type meetings that leadership really needs to know more about what's going on too. So we can't forget people in leadership positions because sometimes they don't know all the details of everything. So
Did we get the whole Metro Council out there on a tour one afternoon?
Good luck with that.
Well, I just think,
No, it'd be good to invite them all.
it would be really good. They won't forget it.
Yeah.
And I have to agree with Greg. Young people want to hear what their peers think. They're not interested in what their professor or their parents or any expert thinks. They want to know what their peers think, which is weird, but that's how they are.
That's the way it is. Yeah.
you just need to hire someone young to have a TikTok account or something for our.
Yeah, really. Yeah, can you imagine? Oh. Okay, so it looks to me like this agenda is essentially over unless we have a member of the public that would like to address a topic on the agenda. And we are rightfully laid back enough that I would assume they would have spoken up already if they had, but anybody who's listening want to add any comments? All right, and then pardon?
I was going to say, oh, there's Sandra.
Yay.
I was going to say that I want to share an update about our Recycle Right program because we've got a couple months under our belt. But I was going to do that at the full advisory committee since that's coming up this month.
Erduda? She doesn't speak Norwegian. Are you there? Well, Sandra, if you mean to be speaking, you're muted apparently. Well,
No, I sent her a request to unmute too.
oh, look, this shows her muted. Hold on a second. Can I fix that? No, but can you, Karen?
When I hit the button, it's a request to unmute. So I guess it pops up on our screen, but I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, it's showing her muted for me.
Probably wouldn't be a good idea if we could unmute somebody's private.
I beg your pardon?
Yeah.
That's true.
That would-
That's true.
that could
It
be
goes the other
dangerous.
way. I can mute people, but I can't unmute people.
It is possible she has a sore
Oh,
throat.
yeah,
I know
that's
a
a
lot of
good
people have
argument.
been getting sick lately.
I mean, I
COVID and
heard
other
all
stuff
that
coming
and
out.
I'm unmuted.
There she is.
That was not it.
Cheers.
All right.
No, my computer just wasn't cooperating with me at all.
That happens.
Well, at least we can hear you even if we can't see you.
You can see me in a minute.
Okay.
While we're waiting for that, one other, going back to the last thing, what about like Connor Griffin or somebody from the Courier Journal? You talked about LKY and all these other, news programs. I don't think the Courier has supported us
It's
as
been
much
a
as they
while.
could.
It's been a long time since we've had
Yeah.
support from the Courier. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but we haven't had anybody out in a long time.
Right.
And
Well,
it's
if it's-
Giffen. It doesn't have an R in it. It's like the camera lens people.
Oh.
But anyway,
Anyway,
I was gonna, give him some rave reviews on that lead poisoning series he did.
Yeah.
If you want, I can suggest that he reach out about taking a tour.
right.
Yeah, and it's a lot of coordination. It was a lot of coordination to do what WLKY wanted to do, but it's not impossible. And what I liked about it is they did reach out to us sometimes when I really want them to, like some of the news stations, to do something more positive. They're, it's like not that exciting, but so it's nice when it's their idea. But yeah, if anybody else has other connections, or we're always open to interviews or talking about. I do plan to put the Recycle Right program out as kind of a bigger story that maybe they'll pick up on. But no, I've got it.
I forgot to tell you that a journalist contacted me a couple of days ago concerned about the inconsistencies between the MRFs. That isn't how he expressed it. He was saying, why can't we have a uniform policy of what people can put out? And I explained about the MRFs and things like that. So he said he wanted to write about that. And I'm assuming that when he gets back to me, I should tell him to contact you, Karen, and let you take it from there. Okay. But it wasn't Connor. Sandra. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Good. So I ended up substituting chair role for you.
Thank you very much.
And we finished the agenda just as you appeared. So do you want to add anything?
No, that was,
You're freezing though.
yeah, I'm having computer problems.
Just flashed on, you can't live with them, you can't live without them. How many times have we
Exactly.
said that? So, my impression was Karen said that Sandra had some ideas about what we ought to be messaging and stuff. Did you want to elaborate? She interpreted or said, her summary of your thoughts, but did you want to add anything to
No,
it?
I'm sure she did a fine job. I think that I started with, we do a very good job of talking to the people who want to read. But if we keep life like a bell curve, the great middle is where we need to focus. And there's two halves to the middle. The middle is people who recycle but would like to know more or better or whatever. And people who maybe don't recycle, who we could bring into the fold. And I'd like to work on the ones that do recycle right now, but would like to do it better. And in order to do that, I would like to ask different kinds of groups of people we could be more effective or what messages we could use. That in order to do that, we need to let people tell us they want to know. Did Karen say that? Okay.
I did
I have
mention a
nothing to-
survey.
Well, not so much a survey of the world. I would like to have it not a survey with 19 million questions that nobody answers. Questions asked of different groups of people so that they could give us a quick answer. Otherwise, I don't think they're going to answer us at all. Even looking at the MRFs, what specific items are we talking about and how component are they of the entire stream? Because I think that we get bogged down sometimes in detail. That's your head there up in Karen. Anyway, did we decide that it would be a good idea for us to go out and try to get information from people on how we could help them?
Can't say we decided logistically how to do it, but I think we can
Good
all agree that
idea.
it would be
Well, I
good.
don't think there's a single, depends on who the target audience is that we're going to ask questions. And Sarah, I did think that you might help because I think you've got groups of people that you could ask questions of that are not the same ones that I'd ask or that Karen would ask.
The other idea
Okay.
I have is what if we had a really short survey that we used at the drop-off centers, since those are people who are going out of their way to recycle and might give us some interesting feedback. Now, we could argue
Good
that
idea.
we could argue it's not relevant enough, but I bet we'd learn some interesting stuff.
I agree with
You
you. I
know?
think it's great. I hadn't thought about that at all.
Are they, any of them staffed, like the Hubbards, the three big ones are staffed still, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
So we could do a short survey with those folks,
I think
maybe.
just a few things. One, I think that we're getting people that are definitely wanting to recycle because they are already out there doing it. So I'm not sure if that's one of the target audiences, the target audience that Sandra was talking about. Number two, we only have one person at those sites, and we already have complaints that our person is not doing enough to help, even though that there's maybe 10 cars there at one time. Can't do it all. And a survey would slow that down and potentially make that worse. I'm not saying that we can't do a survey, but
We'd have to find a way to do it that it wasn't impeding what they're doing already.
yeah, and that would be very, very difficult to do.
What if it were only a half a sheet of paper with a few questions, open-ended, and we handed each
Paper.
person that sheet of paper or offered them that sheet of paper and a golf pencil and said, if you'd be willing to pull off to the side after you've emptied your vehicle and jot down your thoughts, we'd love to have it. Please drop it in this box. That's a minimal imposition. You could even put that intro at the top of the piece of paper.
I think what you would want to do, because we don't have enough place for people to pull off in a lot of the sites, because we've broadened the things that we take. So they're all fairly cramped. And
Yeah.
a person stopping for more than a few minutes to fill something out would back up our site, particularly some, maybe not Dixie so much, but outer loop, it's not uncommon to have 7 or 8 people waiting to put their stuff. We got 2 lanes out there and just can't keep up. So it's
Figure out
something-
another way to
something-
talk
You
to
could-
those people.
You
Yeah,
could
but-
use a
QR
they
code.
could scan a QR code and then they
Yeah.
could upload the survey on their own time. So,
Yeah. That's what I would suggest.
Something like that.
It could be on their own time. If it's paper, they can bring it back the next time they come because most people are regular customers.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
had
prefer
also
to do.
so- Talked about, if there's anything I've learned about all the other home rule cities, it's that we're all different. And I'd like to, and I'll do it. I'd like to find out what they're doing and them be more effective in talking to their residents. But then we also have that huge part of the county that's unincorporated. And I think we have to look at different components in there. In other words, one survey is not going to fit every group that we're trying to talk to.
Definitely.
Anyway, we can do it. I think it will not all get done at once. I think we can do it in steps. But I think that to be really effective in education, we've got to have people tell us what they need to know. And that's
With-
as much
with
as I'm going to say
something
about
like-
it.
With something like a survey that is guided based upon the first answer that they get, that would put them in a bucket. If that's possible, maybe that is something that we can do. And then we have right there, we have they fit in this bucket. This is the things that they put. That'd be interesting. Technology wise, I think that is doable.
Yeah, I was
We
thinking
also need
even
to ask the different colors, because what can we do to make life easier? You know, I think there are lots of components to us asking questions.
From a service delivery person, we also have to know that asking some kind of questions that we cannot provide a service, it's just impossible to do, makes people very nervous.
Well, I'm
Yeah, I
not sure
think
that we're
it's
providing a service. What we're really doing is saying, what kind of education could we do of the population life easier?
So
Yeah, more
focus
like what you
on-
need to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, Karen. Mhm.
And that's my big thing when anytime if somebody wants to ask a survey or do something, I always ask, is it going to change anything based on what they answer? And if the answer is
Agree.
no, then there's no point in even asking.
And I wouldn't
Well,
say
and
what
that's
sort of
why I don't think
education, I'd
a
say-
survey is the
Yeah.
answer. I think there's different components to it. Sarah?
I think the first question is, are you recycling? If yes, do you go to a drop-off center? Is it picked up at your curb?
No, I don't want to focus it. I want them to tell us, if you were to recycle more, what is it that we could do to help you, or
I get that, but you
you
said
need
you
to
wanted
learn.
to get. I get that. And ultimately, the question is, what information would help you to recycle more?
Exactly, exactly.
But if you wanted to be sure that you were polling people who lived in unincorporated home rule versus urban services district, you kind of have to ask them at the front to delineate. because I mean, you've got to ask them either before or after, what kind of information do you need so that you can analyze the data and get something out of it. But my thought was, the software can be done to where the answer pushes you here, there, or there, and you can tailor the questions, you know?
Yes.
The only
I mean, you
problem with
tailor
that
it.
is if we start focusing it, we're not going to get the answer
I think
because we'll have focused it.
what I see as focusing is more like if I get an answer, like an open-ended answer, that it might make more sense knowing it comes from someone living in an apartment.
That's what I'm trying to
or
say.
something.
I agree.
Yeah, open-ended,
But
we're gonna
we
get the
wouldn't
best
ask a
information.
general. I mean, I think that we need to tie in to organizations like cities or something that we're already starting knowing who we're talking to some
I
extent.
think we're saying the same thing, Sandra, just different ways.
I
for
agree.
what it's worth.
What
least,
you
you know-
said before, I totally agreed with.
Okay,
So
That
it
was it, and I'm
sounds-
sorry to come late.
That's okay. If it does sound like we want to move forward with some kind of questionnaire of some sort, just to help meet people where they are, then that's something I can work on in the coming.
do we have a survey, or does the department have a Survey Monkey account?
We as Metro currently have Wufoo, which is
Who?
similar.
What is it?
It's Wufoo, WUFOO. I think it's actually owned by SurveyMonkey, but it is a type of thing that you can use. We're moving to a different one this year, but I'm not sure when that takes place. But I'll have an account with either one.
Because usually the paid account, you can get that sophisticated
Mhm.
enough to.
Yeah, they
Branch.
call it
That's all it
branching.
is. How do you
check.
get it in their hands? And that's our first step.
Right, right.
Well,
we
we'll
have-
have to
We haven't
use.
developed.
Yeah, I mean, you have to use the power of internet and social media kind of stuff, and you could get anybody that way. That's why it's good to have.
No, you
few
can't, and
diff-
that's part of the problem. That there's so many people that will not respond to those.
That's right.
That we already, by doing that as our first step, end up focusing our responses. I mean, I keep talking about my little street of 11. You send Survey Monkey out to them and ask them questions, we're not going to get any responses. Nobody on the street's going to answer. I probably would, but I'm probably
So
the only one.
do you want their answers though?
Sure, they're part of the population. They're a
So if you're-
significant number.
So your thing is more, how do we reach the people that won't take a survey? Like we have to force them somehow.
I
Well,
got
we
an
have to
idea.
make them want to answer our questions. Yeah.
There is an environmental science AP class at Mayo High School, which draws kids from all around the county. I know the teacher. What if we talk to her about getting her kids an assignment of needing to go out and get so many surveys? People will cooperate with a kid more than they're going to cooperate with a grown-up, many of them, you know, and it's random. It's not particularly scientific, but if you get a high enough responses within reason, it's going to be relatively representative, I would think. But the fact that that school draws kids from the entire county could be of value.
I think
Now-
we would need to get it out there in multiple ways.
Yeah. And you know, a lot of people don't really know where they live. They may live in a home rural town or not, and they don't even know it, you know?
We have
It's not the
a,
problem, because what we would be saying is not where you live, it's how do you deal with your trash? So
Well,
whether
that's what I was saying
they're
earlier.
in boundary or not.
Exactly.
Mhm.
yes, I think we're all in agreement. Diane and I were talking about, we have our No Waste Ambassador training starting, and one person answered my little questions just on that. Kind of weird, like said they lived in a multifamily, but then they also had their address was this big house in I don't know, prospect or something. So it was just funny because we're like, okay, unless that someone just rents that out to a whole bunch of people, I don't know how that is multifamily. So she may have even not understood the question.
Right.
So we can use that as an example.
That's interesting.
Yep. But like I said, this helps me. I mean, if we're in agreement, this is a direction we want to go. I think we can figure out some of those details as to how to share and the questions, of course. We can figure out that as we go, and I can bring back some ideas and drafts.
Hey, one suggestion, Karen, team, is that if we create a survey, that one of the best things that we have going is our pop-up drop-offs. And about try to get people to take the survey while they're sitting there waiting to drop off their stuff. I think maybe that's another way to get a large number of people to do it. That's a suggestion.
I think that's great. And I'll home rule cities because I'll go in not necessarily, I'll start with the mayors because if one place is all argument Rumpke, I'd handle that in the long run differently than a place that has no trash pickup at all. And we have all permutations of that.
Sandra, you broke up quite
I
a
can't
bit.
understand everything you said.
Sorry. What I said, the home rule cities, because I would go in through their mayors to start with. Because
And then what
every
do-
city doesn't handle things the same
Oh, yeah,
way. Did that come out?
sort of.
Okay.
I think so.
Yeah. All right. So is it time to go over the next meetings? Make sure they're on our calendars if you want to bring them up. Who goes over that, or do we just read it?
You can just read it.
Let's see, we do have a full advisory committee meeting next week on the 17th at 4:30.
Okay.
And then there would be a board meeting the following week on the 24th at 5:30, if you want to attend. That's just to watch.
Okay. So I believe it's time to ask for somebody to move to what we call the meeting, in the meeting, but there's some word people use for that. You right? How do we?
Adjourn, motion to adjourn.
Yeah, motion to adjourn. Thank you. I'm not a very good bureaucrat despite my history.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Sandra. Second? And Greg
Second, Greg.
seconds. Okay. And all in favor, raise your hand visibly on the screen. Wunderbar. Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you.
Sure. Bye.
Bye.
Ta-ta.
Bye.